All right, next up, we've got Arkansas and Ole Miss. Back to the SEC we go for this one. Ole Miss, 11-point home favorite, 62.5, 63 the total in this one. You know, when I think of these two teams right now, I think offense, I think points, I think of suspect defense really on both sides. And, you know, this is probably another game where I'd probably look at the over before I look at a side in this game. Arkansas last week, tough loss against A&M, 34-22. Not a very good game overall for KJ Jefferson. That was very disappointing because, look, the A&M secondary hasn't been great so far this season, and yet he could only go 9 for 17, 132 passing yards in that game. They couldn't run the ball either. Raheem Sanders, great running back for Arkansas, 11 attempts, 34 rushing yards. You know, what is that? Barely 3 yards per carry? Not good. Obviously, they just stuck in mud against – you know, an A&M defense that's okay, but they've shown some vulnerability. And then their defense got carved up by not Conor Wegman, who was, of course, out for the season, but Max Johnson, you know, starting at quarterback for A&M, and he was able to move the football pretty effectively against Arkansas defense in that game. We'll see now if Arkansas can respond here in this one, but it's not going to get any easier playing Ole Miss. It was just saw Ole Miss put up, 40-plus points against LSU last week. And a team that at home has had no problem scoring points this year. Jackson Dart and the offense did struggle at Bama, but really you put them at home against a, suspect defense. They've had no problem moving the football. The question is, can Arkansas improve and get back on track on offense in this game? I think they can a little bit more against Ole Miss here. So I'm looking more towards total than side and looking at that over at 63. What do you think here, Conor?
The Arkansas defense is just not good, 200 passing yards, and they got some turnovers, but they couldn't do anything with it. You mentioned it, A&M at 204 on the ground, just bullied them, I thought, and A&M's defense is starting to look a little bit better. So I think the game could have been, even worse. Yeah, and Jefferson, not great, only rushed for 42 yards. They could have a little more success. This is one I don't know if I bet. I think there's points if Arkansas's defense is like that, but Arkansas's got to bring a little more. Maybe you just look Ole Miss his way. And every once in a while, though, maybe in a game against Arkansas, we've seen Ole Miss, bigger games with Alabama. The offense can go just kind of dormy and not be so great, especially after scoring 50, whatever, last week, 49. But I'd lean over.
All right, lean into the over here in this one. I agree. And actually, now that I look at the last two meetings, Conor Mack, head-to-head, Arkansas, Ole Miss, we had a 52-51 game a couple years ago.
I remember that. Yeah.
Last year, 42-27 for Arkansas, 69 points. And both of those games, Ole Miss had 703 and 611 as far as total yards. And Arkansas had 676 and 503 total yards. So, wow.
Points.
Big numbers offensively, yeah.
Arkansas's defense, they have better defenses. And I remember those couple of those games were crazy shootouts, even when they had their better defense the last couple of years.
Yeah, this one starting to talk myself even more into the over, looking at everything, including that recent series history.